Pcif Visa, or Mastercard Class Action Recovery.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Liller. I'm with JJ Merchant Services. We are a full-service merchant provider. We educate business owners on the changes in our industry, and we really relate to our merchants on how we can help their profit and loss statements and really educate them on an unregulated industry. I'm currently joined here today by Mr. Harris Love from Financial Recovery Strategies. And Harris, you have the floor. I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself and a brief summary about your company.
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Harris Love, Executive Vice President of FRS and FRS Up here. We have offices in New Jersey and Florida, and we do class action claims management and unclaimed property recovery. We've been in business since 2008. We've recovered over $260 million on behalf of our clients since inception. And we are working diligently right now on an historic opportunity, the payment card interchange fee and merchant discount litigation settlement, better known as Pcif.
And that's really what brought us here today, Harris, is really jumping right into it is can you explain a little bit about what Pcif is and what the settlement means and who it affects, if you don't mind?
Sure. This is a case that's actually been around for quite some time now. This case settled many years ago and has been floating around in the courts, going through appeals and objections. This past summer, the summer of 2023, all appeals have been resolved and the claims process was allowed to start. So on December 1st, the claims process officially began and claim forms started being disseminated out to class members. We are working with any merchant that transacted Visa or Mastercard branded cards from January 1st of 2004 to January 25th of 2019. They have to have just transacted those cards and accepted payments via those cards at any point in time during that covered period. So if they've gone out of business, they are eligible. If they closed locations, the locations that were running transactions during the class period, those are all covered, and those are eligible transactions that they can get a portion of the interchange fees paid to Visa and Mastercard during that covered period and get that back in the form of a recovery from this settlement fund.
And part of that settlement fund is that do they have to have processed continuously from 2004 to 2019? Is there a certain amount of volume they would have had to have qualified for? And what if they don't have any of that information? How do we get that information? How is that information obtained to keep it easy and smooth for the merchant?
Yeah, great question. So for one, no, technically a merchant could have transacted for just 1 year of the class period, and all those transactions, provided they were Visa and Mastercard transactions, would be eligible for just that 1 year. However, the majority of our clients are a lot more complex than that. But if you think about it, a lot of businesses have changed quite significantly over the years, whether they've bought and sold locations or changed names, changed merchant processors, things of that nature. That is all part of the complexity around this opportunity. But they've only had to transact during that point in time. But the other thing I'd say is no merchant is going to have statements that go back the entire class period. But that's why you work with a company like FRS. What we will do is we will organize all their corporate information, their business entities and units, locations, and tax ID information. And that's the information that we will use to connect the dots with the claims administrator's data that they have. It's 300 billion lines of data that they have that we all have access to so that we can pull the interchange fees for the merchant for the covered period of time.
So if a merchant received a pre-populated email or claim form, they still need you, really?
I should say any merchant has the ability and has the right to file a claim on their own. But just as I hire an accountant to file my taxes during tax time and don't do it on my own, even though I could do it on my own, I want to make sure that I have an expert that is taking advantage of all of the opportunities that are available and make sure that I maximize, if you want to talk about the tax thing, maximize the best tax return for myself. But when you're talking about a class action like this one, every merchant should want to maximize their claim. So organizing all of their corporate history and business units, tax IDs and all of that information, making sure they're capturing closed location data as well. That's all part of why merchants hire FRS to manage their claims.
Harris, I'm in merchant services. I don't pretend to know for 1 minute to know what you're going to know on that side. So, I mean, that's why we partnered up, right? I mean, it makes sense. We do what we do and you do what you do. So that makes sense to me. Can you walk me through the exact process and exactly what a merchant needs to do and what the experience is going to be when they partner up with FRS and what that looks like, if you don't mind?
Sure. There's three main things that we need from a merchant. Number one is obviously a contract signed that says that we are working on their behalf on a contingency of the recovery only when the recovery occurs. There's no other fees or costs associated from that. Then we need an authorization to file. That is what we submit to the claims administrator to show that we have authority to act on behalf of and work this opportunity on behalf of that particular merchant. And the last is the most important, actually, which is a client information record, CIR for short. And what that is that we collect a listing of all business units, entities, tax IDs, locations, addresses of the company, whether they're newer locations, older locations, closed locations, acquired locations. We need that all on that one form. And that is, again, what we will use to maximize the claim as we move through the process. Once we have that information, we are working on behalf of that merchant, and we will only come to them for the things that we maybe need for further substantiation. But in particular, we're taking on that administrative burden on behalf of that merchant to make sure that we're maximizing the claim and they get every dollar back from the settlement fund that they're eligible to get.
I know that a couple of our partners have already utilized your services and worked with a couple of our merchants already, and they've been very happy, seem very happy with the process, and we've got some more to send you, and excited to do so as we continue to educate, a lot of these merchants on what's available to them. And that's really what's separating your company and what's separating our company from the folks that can consider their merchants numbers, is that we're bringing this information to them because it's really valuable in a sense from an education, but also from a monetary if they've been in business for so long. Is there anything additional information you'd like to share that would, that would make it easier? Or is there anything else that we can kind of, go over from a 40,000-foot view that may help these merchants in their education process? Not to mention sharing the link for you guys and getting that going with FRS.
Yeah, I just think that merchants should keep in mind that the world is actually a very different place today as it was 4 years ago, actually today. We've gone through a major pandemic, which has shifted the world in many, many ways, especially the business world. And that has changed the complexity and changed the design and infrastructure of a lot of different businesses. So then think about those 4 years and then think back from maybe, let's say 2020, which is still after the class period ends and the cover period ends, back to 2004, and think about how different a business looked then than it even did by the end of the class period. That is where FRS comes into play, and how we will work with merchants to maximize their claim is because there are a lot of different changes that are ongoing in terms of changing merchant processors, changing technology, such as the terminals that the business use, probably even change technology 3 or 4 times during that cover period alone, and then even after that. So all of these different changes change the identity of the business in the eyes of the merchant processing world to a certain extent. And that is why working with us, we will make sure that we capture transactions from whatever part of the history of that business was, so that they can get their rightful recovery back.
That makes sense. I mean, card not present, card present, going through a pandemic. I mean, all of those changes that I think, thinking back, our first call, we talked about our kids and your daughter graduating and going through that process 4 years ago and coming in now, right? And being there. And I'm looking back and I can relate to that because I've got 4 boys too. And I'm like thinking, wow, those pictures go back 4 years and how things have changed, not to mention what you just mentioned from a business perspective. And I get it all the time. Merchants go, well, why did these models change? Why is the underwriting the way it is now? Why are we doing things? Because we've been through a pandemic. When's the last time we went through a pandemic together? Let's face it. So you're absolutely right. The world has changed And that's what, a lot of these business owners need to know. So this is really, really valuable information, Harris. Thank you.
Not a problem. It's good speaking with you today, and good luck as we move through this process.
Absolutely. You as well. We'll talk soon. Thanks again.
Contact us at 571-295-0329 or info@jjmerchantservices.com and let us assist you in getting back your hard-earned money.